YouTube, what's up? If you are enlisted in the U.S. Army and want to become an officer, this is the video for you, and stay tuned. I'm currently in the process. I am at the last stages of submitting my packet, and it's all through IPSE now. This past year, for this fiscal year, it has changed from a physical packet you turn into schools and you kind of go the slow traditional route to go up from battalion to brigade and such, and you still have to do that sort of, but it's a lot smoother. So now there's a checklist, and I'll link it. I'll put a link to the HRC checklist down, or I can just try to attach it as a PDF. But basically, it's just a checklist that has, letters A through, whatever, and it's just documents you need. And basically, this checklist will be organized into one PDF and will be submitted into IPSE. So everything's through IPSE. So your NCOs or your S1 specifically will know how to at least submit a par, but my battalion S1 was not familiar with this new system, this new checklist. I had to pretty much educate them on how to do it, because they had never even submitted an OCS packet, let alone it being changed. They kept saying, you got to go to schools and submit your packet first, and blah blah blah. Or green the gold. So green the gold, if you don't know the difference, green the gold versus OCS. Green the gold is you go to school while you're in the military to get your degree and then commission. A sergeant in my unit that is we just arrived her, but she's already slotted for green the gold. Everyone's like, she's going to OCS, but it was actually green the gold. So there's the difference where you go and you still get paid and everything, but I think your time in service is paused, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, this is about the OCS route through enlisting. So basically, what qualifies you is obviously, if you're not familiar, you need a GT score of at least 110 or above. I believe that is non-waiverable either. I took they call it the fast class, and I went from a 103 to a 121. So I have a pretty competitive GT score. And other than that, you need those basic qualifications with ACFT, now AFT, which is above all your minimums. Now another difference is the age limit. So last year and previous, it was 33 without needing a waiver, and I'm 33 right now. So it's kind of crazy, but they raised the age limit to 40. So you can be in service and be up to 40 years old without a waiver. Whether that's for if they need more officers or if they want more experienced officers or whatever, it does benefit me, and if you're in the same boat. So yeah, when you go through this route, you have to be at least 12 months on your duty station. So at your duty station, you have to be there for 12 months before submitting a packet, which is huge. And I D-Rose next year, so if I get accepted through this process, I'll have to extend actually, and that's another thing. And I will be making a following video once I submit my packet and kind of the next route of what happens next. I just don't want this to be too long because everyone sees a 20-minute video, they don't want to click on it. So the packet breakdown, what actually goes in the packet. So basically, who's eligible? That's pretty much it. Like, there's prerequisites like, don't. Basically, you can't. There's a certain med pros. You can't be like on a permanent profile or active, because I tore my Achilles but I fully recovered. You can't be actively going through that, but you can be on profile, but it's not like a dead man's profile. You can't have major law, things, basically things when you first enlisted. But as far as that packet, so it's a panel packet. All these documents go in a PDF, and I'll just read them off from A to J. So A is an in-service OCS info sheet, and it's just a general info sheet that has some general info, your GT score, your AFT score, what date was your OCS physical, which you do need your physical, that's also in here. So that's just an info sheet. And these are in order in the packet. B is basically, this is kind of like the big thing that takes time, is it says required memorandum of endorsement by the brigade commander. So that would be your colonel, whoever is commanding your brigade. So it says memorandum of endorsement from the company commander and battalion commander are recommended but not required. But I will say, and even this checklist says, it is recommended you do that. And I got my company commander memo of endorsement, and I just met with the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel, last week, and he signed off on it. So we sent it to the brigade level now to get signed, and it should, usually they go off of the battalion's recommendation and sign it. I don't see really any issue that getting signed. That is the last thing I need. So everything I'm reading to you, I already have ready to go. C, letter C, is a typed essay why I want to be an officer, digitally signed by your company commander. So this is a big one, because this is the only thing that has you in it, that represents you personally. So at first I kind of had the cookie cutter answers, and then I was talking to the battalion commander and stuff, and he recommended it be more personal, basically how I pitched my life and my why to him. So I kind of changed it, and I went down and pretty much said, personally, I want to build a better life for my family, and you don't want to go so deep and kind of forget out the being a leader aspect and developing others, but you really want to hone in on your personal why you want to be an officer. That is what it's called. It's not a resume where you said I did this, this, and this, because your letter of recommendations and your STP, all your stuff will show what you've done. You can touch on it, but just make it personal, and that's one of the biggest things. So that's letter C. Letter D is an education memo from the education center reflecting on your current credits or degree, from your college or university. So I went to my ed center. I turned in. So basically, I had the order transcripts, turn it into them, so they open it. Make sure you don't open your transcripts, and they will write a memo basically saying he has a degree, it's verified, pretty self-explanatory. That took like a week. Letter E is security clearance memo, and you can just go to that department, and they will just pretty much write a little memo saying he has a good standing security clearance. Pretty straightforward. F is another big one. Letters of recommendation, and they must be within 1 year and no more than 4 submitted. So it must be within a year of you submitting this packet. I just got mine within a few months ago. Said no more than 4. I made sure I got 4. And don't be scared to go higher than, like your PL or something, or even your company commander, because your company commander is already endorsing you. So that's kind of like an extra one, because she, signs the memo of endorsement. So you really want to try to reach out to other, officers that might know you. I work in the HROB, and I just started working there a few months ago. I went right to the head people. So I got a lieutenant colonel, a major, and 2 captains. So I've for a specialist, I have pretty competitive, LORs. So don't be afraid, because all it is they're just going to interview you, and it'd be super informal, and then they'll write one, or they'll just say, hey, send me your resume, your stuff, and then, or they might say draft. One of them said draft something up for me and I'll sign it. A lot of times that's what they do. But just don't be afraid to tell your NCO to ask, or you ask directly, if that's how your chain of command operates. But next it says DA 5500 or 5501, regardless of current standards. So that's just height and weight. But the form that they have is the tape, so you have to get taped. You have to get taped everywhere. But it says must not be before the date of your physical. So you have to get a physical, an OCS physical, and the height and weight can't be before that. So basically, the first thing you want to do when you're doing this is schedule that physical. Schedule that OCS physical, because sometimes it takes a month or two. But then after you get your physical, you can kind of do these other medical things like height and weight and stuff. So letter H says ECLT with verified score of 80 or above. So that's like the English comprehension, if that applies to you, where you need your 80 or above. Letter I is OCS applicants. So yeah, that's just the eval sheet from your immediate commander. It's DA form 5339, and that's just the eval sheet, them evaling your duties and kind of it's an eval. It's just a sheet they fill out and see how good you do. And most of them are just going to put excellent on it because they know you're commissioning. And then last is your letter J is your PT test, your 705, DA 705. So yeah, you just need the minimum in the events, but you want to be competitive. I came off my Achilles and got cleared, and then scored a 453, and I'm actively getting in better shape. So if I could, I might pass another one in a higher score before I actually submit this. It just depends, because I honestly, hopefully, submitting this within the next week or two. Yeah, and then the bullet 2 is waivers. So if you need a medical, an age, or disenrollment waiver, or civil or moral waiver, those got to be submitted in memorandum format. And the examples are all on HRC's website. All this info is on HRC's website, but a lot of people don't really know. So there's 2 panels. There's one panel. So for this fiscal year, there's one panel where if you submitted your packet before the end of March, you'll be on one of the panels for the board, because you basically, after this, you get selected to go to the next step, and then you go to the board, which is usually at like a brigade level, and kind of more informal than an NCO board. Most of the time they wear SCPs. I'll make another video about a board if you guys care about this, because like I said, I don't want this too long. But so basically, if I submit it by July 1st, and it actually has to be administratively cleared by July 1st through IPSE. So they'll put a restriction code on your STP saying you can't go to another assignment. Once you get that, then you're good. But it has to be cleared before that date. So it's almost the beginning of June. So that's what I mean. Hopefully within this next week or two, I get it submitted, just in case there's any kickbacks. So I mean, I have to have it cleared by July 1st, and then I'll be good for the August board panel. And then basically, when January rolls around, the list comes out after the board, if who all got selected. So it is a long process, and I've been waiting and waiting, and then I got injured last year, and that's a whole nother story. But lastly, it says OMPF verification. So these files are reviewed, but they're not in the packet. So any 1059s, evals, NCOs, you know what that is. Transcripts, so like your college transcripts, need to be on iPerms. And if you know your S1 or you're friends with someone that has that, all Army access as a HR, ask them to put it as the board, for the board. So you submit your transcripts and put in all caps, label it for the board, because it should just only take a few days, because if you just put it in there, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months, and you might not have that time. And I had to go through that, and I did for the board, and it was there. So and then birth certificate and whatnot, all the above. So yeah, I mean that is the packet, and they're pretty picky about it. Everything they in the HRC website, they have more info on the submission process, but it's literally just a PAR through IPSE. They tell you the UDL. But if you want to know more, comment down. I'm pretty familiar with this process. I've been really obsessing over it a little too much. I'm going to make further videos about OCS as far as how the branching works in OCS now and all that. But this is just about the OCS checklist packet that gets submitted through HRC initially. But just subscribe and follow for more, because I will keep pounding this out through this process as I go through it. I'll talk about it a little sooner, because January is still 6 months away or more, so I'm not going to wait until then to make further videos. But as I go through, I'll be transparent. I want to keep posting more, so please comment down your story, your commission process, what it's looking like, any questions. I can refer, everything. I'll try to remember to put the HRC link down there in the comments, as well as this checklist. But yeah, it's different this year. So if you're going through this process, it's long, but it is worth it. Just tell yourself the why. Most people start to do this and they don't get everything done. Oh, I'll do it next year, and then time goes and things happen. So I'm really locking in on this. So let me know any issues. Let me know anything in the comments. Until next time, peace.